Customs and Border Protection says that fiscal year 2021 was a record-breaking year for migrant encounters along our southwest border and that the crisis is showing no signs of slowing down. Our next guest says our cities are more dangerous because of President Biden's policies. So let's bring in Arizona's Attorney General Mark Brnovich. Mr. Attorney General, thank you for taking time. I hope you had a wonderful Christmas. Want to get right to that border, though, because agents along your Arizona border were working on Christmas, and you have had an explosion coming across your area in Yuma. Any given day, 2,000 plus migrants from more than 30 countries over a recent weekend. What is the situation there? What are you doing about it?
Well, Griff, thank you for having me on today. And I think the folks that are serious about law enforcement, we haven't had a day off all year because the Biden administration has systematically allowed the cartels to seize control of our border. So just last week, we held a press conference with the DEA and Scottsdale Police Department where we had worked together to seize more than 1.7 million fentanyl pills and more than 20 pounds of fentanyl powder, which is enough to make more than 4 million pills. So you're talking about a drug that's highly addictive where 2 milligrams can kill. In just one bust, we got more than 6.5 million fentanyl pills. So this is not going to be a problem that's going to stay in Arizona. This is coming to everyone's neighborhood throughout this country. And that's why we're going to continue to see more crime and more violence. Also, remember, we have lawsuits trying to force the Biden administration to build the wall and stop incentivizing people coming here. In fact, I'm going to be arguing a case in February at the U.S. Supreme Court where the Biden administration is giving public benefits. So we've seen a record amount of people, as you said, illegally crossing into our country, more than 2 million people. And as a result of the Biden administration's decriminalizing and now monetizing people coming here, we are seeing a dramatic impact that's going to affect not only Arizona, not Texas, but this entire country. And that's what breaks my heart as a prosecutor.
Mr. Attorney General, last weekend I was down on the Texas border where Texas is building its own wall. The governor, Greg Abbott, has had his Texas DPS agents trying to prosecute crossers. What are you doing in Arizona, if anything, in sort of similar measures trying to get it under control, assuming you're not getting the assistance you're asking for from the Biden administration?
Yeah, and Griff, you know that it is the federal government's job. The president at his apex of power with national security and border security. He has constitutional statutory authority, and he's failing to do his job. And so as a result of the failed Biden policies, we see a record amount of people crossing, record unemployment, rising gas prices, crime in our cities, and yet the Biden administration wants to call out the unvaccinated in his press conferences. So they have totally misplaced their priorities, and it's not fair that Governor Abbott should be having to build a wall on his own, that Arizona or Texas taxpayers have to pay for this because it is the federal government's responsibility, and it's a matter of will. They have to enforce the existing law. That's why we've sued President Biden and his administration over the failure to deport people, deportation orders, the failure of ICE to do its job because they're being handcuffed by Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And then ultimately, we've sued them to force them to build a wall. And if you've been down to the border, you know, in parts of Arizona, there's literally concrete, rebar, steel that's just sitting there. And we are paying people now, taxpayers, you and I are paying people not to build a wall when it's already been paid for. It is madness. It is chaos. And global, climate change isn't the man-made disaster. The man-made disaster is what Joe Biden is doing on our southern border.
And let me ask you about who's coming across. I follow your numbers with crossings very closely in Arizona and talk to agents on the ground there. And the number of gotaways is at a record level, and we don't know who they are. Is this, in your opinion, a national security issue, as we have heard from some of the Border Patrol agents?
Yes, absolutely. We know that there have been people on the terror watch list that have been apprehended. We know that recently someone came over, a Saudi Arabian nationally, dressed in a first responder uniform. So there are literally 2 million people that we know about that are coming across, just basically surrendering. They come across, they give up. But then what keeps law enforcement up at night is the gotaways, as you just said. And these are people that are trying to evade detection. The Tucson sector is the #1 sector now in the United States. And these are people, usually young males, about 18 to 30, dressed in camouflage, dressed in black, wearing slipper shoes, so they're evading detection. We know the number of pursuits in our border counties is more than doubling, sometimes tripling. So these are the folks that want to evade detection that we know, we believe, mean to do us harm, that are bringing crazy amounts of drugs across, and also who knows what they're going to do once they get to, Chicago and Detroit and Minneapolis and all these other cities in the Midwest.
Let me turn to another topic before I run out of time, and that is the surge in crime in your nearby California Golden State. You've got a woman carrying a pickaxe walking down the aisles of Rite Aid yelling obscenities at customers. What are you doing, and how bad is the situation in neighboring Arizona?
Well, I spent much of my career as a gang prosecutor and a federal prosecutor, and we know that when you incentivize and decriminalize activity, you see more of it. And so in places like California, where the 3 of the top 10 cities in organized retail theft are, what California has done is they are not prosecuting people that are engaged in property crimes. And Griff, I would submit to you that this is a generational issue where the progressive left has basically undermined religious institutions, undermined law enforcement, and then you elect prosecutors and city officials in places like Chicago and San Francisco that basically delegitimize and stigmatize law enforcement, and they will not prosecute crimes. And so you see more of it, and you have more of it. And this is all part of the leftist, neo-Marxist agenda to undermine our institutions and our respect for property rights. And that's why we are seeing this surge of crime. And that's why, as a prosecutor, we can't turn a blind eye. We can't just say that this is okay. It's not okay. It really undermines the very fabric of our society. And I worry that we're going to have a long, hot spring.
I hope you don't. We will check back in with you, though. Thank you for taking time, Mr. Attorney General Mark Brnovich. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.